Hey, small business owners, this is Lynn from Right For You. I'm so excited to talk about today's content topic, which is your FAQ page. So if you don't know what FAQs are, it's frequently asked questions. And you probably know what that means. That means just the questions that you get asked the most in your business for your product or service. So for me, when I do podcast consulting, one of the questions I get asked the most is like, how often do I have to put out my podcast? How many minutes should it be? You know, all those basic questions. So I have those and some of those answers on my website under my FAQ page. Why do I have an FAQ page? This is why I have one and why it's a good idea for you to have one for your business as well. An FAQ page are questions with answers. What do people do when they go on Google? They type in a question and they're looking for an answer. And oh my gosh, guess what? If you have that question and answer on your FAQ page, Google is likely to send them there right to your FAQ page, which is really, really cool. And that's a really great way to get SEO. So you might be asking me, Lynn, what questions do I want to put on an FAQ page? Because I don't even know where to start, because I get a lot of that from my clients. A great place to start with your FAQ page is to just jot down the questions your clients always ask. You can even email your clients and say, hey, what are some questions that you have about my products or services? You can go on any of your social media channels and put up a little thing saying like, hey, what are some questions you have about, pet care? What are some questions you have about putting on your makeup? What are some questions you have about current fashion trends for women's clothing? And then let your customers or the people that are looking at that post respond with their questions. And that's a great place to start. And it doesn't have to be super complicated. Your questions can be very simple. So it could be like, what's the latest fashion trend in pants for women in 2022, which is a little more detailed. But your questions can be more detailed if you want, or simpler. Another thing you definitely want to put on your FAQ page is common questions you get in your business. So for example, one of my clients has a medical billing service. It's called Kairos Billing. And if you're a medical provider, you definitely want to head over to Kairos Billing and check it out. It's Kairos Billing. She is amazing, the gal who runs that company. And she is so efficient and on top of everything. I mean, she can make your medical billing like headaches go away in a month, like or overnight or whatever, however long she takes to do that. She's fantastic. So the gals at Kairos Billing can help you with your medical billing. So one of the things I put on her FAQ page were questions I thought of asking as a consumer, such as like, do I have to like sign up for a contract for your service? And can I cancel at any time? And also like, if I have more than one physician in my office, can we put all the physicians on one billing plan? So just general questions people are going to ask you about your service. You can even just, if you're uncomfortable doing it on social media or emailing your clients, sit down with a friend and say, hey, if you were my client, what questions would you ask me about my business? And that's a great way to start. Or ask your family members, like what questions would you ask about my business? Now, family members aren't always great, especially if you have teenage kids, because they're just going to be snarky and whatever. But anyway, you get my point. So ask around to see what questions people are asking. Because one of the things about writing content is that when you're in your own box, it's a lot harder to figure out what someone else is thinking. But when you're outside of your own box, it's much easier to figure out what someone else is thinking or wanting to do, or, having questions about your product or service. So how many FAQs should you have on your FAQ page? Well, there's no really limit to the amount of FAQs you have on your FAQ page. I generally tell people 10 to 12 is a great place to start. And, just as you're writing questions down, and you're thinking of more questions, write them down. So a great way to figure out, to get more questions out of your head. One of the things I do as a writer, which really helps me like churn out content, because one of my superpowers is idea creation for my clients and for my own business, is that I sit down with a pen and paper. I do not do this on the computer usually, because the reason why I sit down with a pen and paper is because actually the physical way of writing actually helps your brain process more and get more out. And the more you can get out of your brain, the more ideas come in your head. So that's why one of the best times I get ideas is if I'm driving in the car, taking a shower, taking a bath. in the middle of the night when I'm sleeping is when I get the best ideas. And if I don't keep my journal by my bed to write them down in the middle of the night, I'll forget them by morning. So take a pen and paper and just start brain dumping. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about if it's right or wrong. Just brain dump everything onto that piece of paper, because that's going to help you out with ideas. Now, once you brain dump all your FAQ questions on that piece of paper, then you want to go back and organize. Okay, what questions do you like? Organize them so it kind of makes sense as you're reading, right? You don't want the super detailed FAQ questions at the top and the general ones at the bottom. You want the very general ones at the top, like, what do you offer for your services? You know, do I have to get a la carte, or can I get your services wrapped in a package? Like, different very general questions like that to start, and then get into the more detailed questions. But just make sure it makes sense. You don't want to have starting out with like, what products or services do you offer? And then your next question be like, what is the best shampoo to use for your dog or cat? Because that's just too detailed to come after that question. But when you're doing your initial brain dump, don't worry about the order. Just write everything down that you can think of, and keep writing until you completely run out of ideas. And there's no time limit to this. It might take you 10 minutes. It might take you an hour. There's no right or wrong with how long it takes you. It's just sitting down and writing them out. And if you're having a hard time coming up with ideas, come on over to my website at writeforyou.me. I'd be glad to help you out. You can throw a comment in the video underneath this, and I can help you out with that as well. So once you have all your questions down, then you need to formulate answers for them, and you want to make them complete answers. And then once you have your questions and answers written out, then you want to run them by a friend or another colleague, a few other people, because they're going to think of more questions you should have on your page, because they're outside of your box, right? You want to get the people outside of your box to review your content. And as long as they're giving you constructive criticism. Now, if your colleague's being like, no, your page sucks, that's probably not a good colleague to ask advice from. But if your colleague's like, well, I like the way you have this question worded, but I think you need to explain it a little bit better in your answer, then that's a great person to have help you out with your FAQ questions and answers. And maybe even come up with some other questions or some better answers than you can come up with. Or they may think about additional answers or content for your answers that you didn't think about, like putting words on your question FAQ or things like that, you know, sometimes we don't like to promote ourselves, and our friends are like, this is really great, you should put this on your content. So having an FAQ page is super important. Now, the other option you can do, besides putting all your questions and answers on one page, is you can do your questions and answers that pertain to a specific page. So, for example, if you do carpet cleaning and you have, like, you know, wool carpets and Asian carpets and Berber carpeting, and then you put those specific category questions and answers on the bottom of each page, that's another thing that you can do that also helps increase your SEO, just as well as putting them all on one page. But I like to put them all on one page because usually people will read down on that page, and when they read down, they'll find out more about your products and services when they continue to read on your FAQ page. Well, I hope this video has been helpful with, you know, learning more about why you want an FAQ page and how to build one. And if you need help with building your FAQ page, I can totally help you out with that. Go over to writeforyou.me and hit the complimentary consult button, or give me a call. My phone number's on my website, and I'd be glad to help you out with your FAQ page, to get you a great FAQ page, to increase your SEO, to get more people finding your website content today. All right, my friends, I hope you're having a great business day, and subscribe to the channel, because I'm coming up with another awesome video next week. It's going to be about keywords in your subtitles for your website. Check that out as well. All right, I hope you're having a great business day, and subscribe, and see you next week.